Bonjour and welcome to French Footprints, the podcast sharing steps you can take towards raising bilingual children. I'm your host, Amy Mann, founder of Un, deux, trois, Petit Pas, where I teach parents and children how to introduce French at home in fun, engaging, and accessible ways. Through Canadian Parents for French and funding from the Government of Canada, the French Footprints program shares research-based techniques and expertise to help build the confidence of parents and better the future of their kids. We have our very special guest, Silvia Nuñez, back with us again today. Silvia is a mother of multilingual children, a Montessori educator, and principal. Last time she was with us, we discussed introducing languages and how it really helps to build resilient little citizens of the world. And this time we'll be talking about how parents can create a support network for introducing French to their young children. So Silvia, thanks for chatting with us again today. How are you doing?
Hi, Amy. I'm doing really well. I'm very excited about meeting with you again and to have the opportunity to be in this space to share all my expertise with all the parents that are listening.
Thank you so much. So today we're going to talk about resources for parents and how they can feel supported in their introduction of a language at home. So, Silvia, they say that it takes a village. What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree with that it takes a village to raise a child. And sometimes when we are trying to introduce a new language to our children, we can feel alone, at the beginning and think that it's only you. And how are you going to accomplish this big milestone in the life of your children? But then if you realize that you're not alone and that you can always connect with people around you, it makes a huge difference in your life because then it takes away that heavy burden that you've been hanging on your shoulders. And my suggestions would be to first try to reach your closest circle, meaning your family, your relatives, your friends, and especially sometimes reaching out those extended relatives that that they speak the target language that you're introducing to the children, because by contacting them, the children will have authentic interactions with people that are using that target language as their first language as well. You can always connect as well with the community that you have around you. It could be either going to physical spaces like libraries that sometimes they have opportunities for parents to come and gather and interact in different activities, or maybe reading just stories, but it could also be online. I think that nowadays there are plenty of multilingual groups online that can create that space where parents can share their ideas, their thoughts, their struggles as well, and create a solid network that will help them to keep on moving forward in their multilingual journey.
Exactly. That's the cool thing about nowadays. We're so connected and we have so many more resources available to us, including creating a community online. So in terms of resources, are there any recommendations that you have for how parents can introduce language learning at home?
Yes, for sure. There are plenty of resources that they can get outside of home as well, that they can buy or that they can retrieve from different centers. But there are plenty of materials that they can also do with day-to-day objects or things that they have around at home. One of the things that parents could use as a valuable resource would be multilingual books. But also, there are plenty of other routines that you can start instilling at home that will be helping children to, little by little, keep on adding more words and phrases to their repertoires.
And what do you recommend in terms of books? So you mentioned there's multilingual books, which are really cool. But when it comes to a parent who might not speak the language themselves, or who, if they're not comfortable with their pronunciation, do you have any recommendations for that?
Yes, for sure. I think that whenever you have a book in another language that you do not feel confident enough to talk about it, maybe you can use online resources again, like all these translators that online will show you the pronunciation of the words that you're using. I think that it is really important to share with the kids this mindset of openness to learn a language rather than lacking the opportunity of interacting in that language because they think that they're not fully proficient. A language, from my understanding, will never be 100% accomplished or achieved because language keep on changing every day. It is a life component, and it will be influenced by all the context and all the resources that we have around. So I think that for parents, my biggest advice would be just to have the courage to be imperfect and to have fun and be that unique, that authentic, that natural with your children. So like that, they can also grab that mindset from you. And later on, they would also learn how to overcome the struggles that will come eventually while learning another language.
Absolutely. And you know what? I want to dive a little bit deeper into that and the whole thought process of, making mistakes and having confidence in your own ability. But first, I just want to talk about if your child attends a daycare, how can they be a support resource for families?
Once you're ready to register your children in a specific school or a daycare, then you can partner up with the teacher that's going to be working with your children. And once you have conversations with the teachers, and if they are open to bring the target language that you're choosing to instill at home to the classroom, it becomes really meaningful for the students because it's this connection that they start making with the language outside of the comfort zone of their home. And they start producing it and transferring it to real life situations. So something really, really important when you are registering children to a daycare is to try to find a school that is open to foster heritage languages. Because like that, children will be able to not only learn the target language that you are instilling at home, but they would also open those channels of communication to the other languages that other children are bringing to the classroom as well.
Exactly. And you mentioned a little bit earlier about how it needs to be fun. So can we talk about how play-based learning can help parents with language introduction?
Yes, for sure. Children, when they're playing, they do it as a process. All the activities that they do through play, they become a process that they enjoy rather than just doing them to achieve a specific result. When a child is playing how to cook a soup with, many elements that they could find at the backyard, they are enjoying all the process of finding these ingredients, adding them up to the bowl, and then having their own soup. And they're, enjoying all the process, because sometimes when we see it from the adult perspective, when we are making a soup, we're making it with the idea of having that specific result, of having the soup. But for kids, it's not like that. They enjoy the whole process, and then they enjoy as well the result. So as play becomes something that it's really, really crucial in the life of a child, I invite parents to use it as a tool as well to boost the learning process of a new language. So when children are having fun, when they are enjoying these processes and what they are doing, it will automatically become more meaningful to their lives, and it would be stored in their mind in a special place, because it's not going to be words that are coming to their mind, but it's going to be words combined with emotions and with fun. And then the children are going to make more meaning of them. So I always encourage parents to, instead of try to teach the children directly at this specific age, better find ways in which they can cook together or pretend that they're cooking together. Or they can also, have a babies and play with the babies and role play, trying to bring some words in French into those interactions. For sure, if you have like books or songs that you love singing with your children and following along with some corporal movements, that would also be very beneficial. because when a child is playing, they are absorbing all the world through all their senses. So if we provide them opportunities to have multisensorial experiences while learning a language, again, they will become more meaningful, and if it's going to be easier for children to retain all that information.
I love everything you just said. It's not about, being academically teaching them something, right? They are experiencing something. And when they're having fun and they're creating those positive memories, it's going to spark something for them. When they do go and they hear those words, they're not just going to think of words on a cue card that they memorized. They're going to have that memory. It's just so amazing for parents to be able to recognize that it's not something, difficult. You just find a few words, pick an activity, and provide your child with that positive bonding and learning experience. And it's not about the end result, right? It's about what you're doing at that moment and the memories that you're creating. So I absolutely love everything you just said.
Thank you very much. And if I can, I would like to add something else, just to keep in mind that when children are playing, they really enjoy what they're doing. So it's always best to have these opportunities for children to learn when they're engaged, when they're motivated, rather than when the adult is telling them what to do. Because sometimes as parents, we love to talk all the time and to tell them what to do. And sometimes when we're always telling them what to do, instead of opening their ears and being very receptive, they start like closing little by little down. So I always encourage parents to involve a play, because it's when the children are in that, I will say, like flow moment, when they are like flowing, enjoying, and then it would be easier for them to keep on moving forward with the language acquisition.
Exactly. So one of the things that sometimes holds parents back is their fear of making mistakes. If the parent doesn't feel quite comfortable in their language skills, what would you say to them in terms of advice?
I would suggest that even if they do not feel 100% comfortable, to try, and to be very honest as well with your children, and to mention as well these emotions that you're experiencing. Because when you're doing mistakes, it also comes along with an emotion that you might like or dislike. And it is important for us to talk about those emotions with our children. So whenever they make a mistake, they would also feel a little bit relieved and validated, because they would say like, oh, wow, this is what mom was talking about. Now I can feel it, and I know that it's normal. Usually when children are at this age, they are a bit still egocentric because of the development stage where they are. And they would blame themselves for everything that's happening around and everything that's not going well, even though it's not their fault, but that's how their mind is constructed at that age. That mindset that you're creating with your child, I think it's 1,000 times more important than sending them the wrong message, this message of, oh no, I'm not proficient, I can do it, because then the children will stop trying as well, and they will feel overwhelmed, and they would say, no, thank you, I don't want to keep on moving forward, with this language acquisition journey. But if they see that parents are open to commit these mistakes and they're just having fun with them, and they are trying to become better every day, I think that's the most important message that we want to send our multilingual children. I can tell from my own experience that as I am a Mexican woman living in Canada, but first when we came, we moved to Montreal, so we had to use French, in day-to-day life, and I didn't know French at all. My kids started going to school, and then they started learning French, so it was a bit easier for them. But nonetheless, I was all the time at home trying to speak with my kids in the French language as well. I was trying to read some books. I was trying to sing the songs that you could find in all these platforms online, and trying, to sometimes even make like fun competitions. Okay, who's going to learn this song first? Is it going to be you or is it going to be me? And then we were trying to do these fun games around the French language at home. So it was fostering that inner motivation to keep on learning the language.
That's amazing and good for you because it really is the more important lesson, right? It's kind of discouraging to hear that there are some parents who have heard that, sometimes even from professionals in a setting. I remember somebody approached me and said that there was a teacher who had said to them, "You don't speak to your kids because I don't want you passing on those mistakes." And I would love for them to hear what you just said, because it is that lesson that is so much more important, right? To teach a child that mistakes are part of learning and it's going to happen. And not only to just say it, but to let them see that you are that positive role model, and to experience the fun you can have in learning is so much more important than them making a mistake because they've heard you say it, right?
I think that there is like kind of a revolution in the second language learning field, because there was a traditional way in which we were taught to teach the language, and that all the students need to reach a certain proficiency level. And that was the right way of acquiring a new language. But nowadays, with all these holistic approaches, they are addressing the children as a whole. And now the second language learning field is also moving towards that perspective. There is a big current called translanguaging, which is an invitation for parents or teachers or whoever to see the child as a whole child with a whole repertoire, where all the languages are entangled inside a child's brain. And it's not really that we become proficient in one language regardless of the other one. It's better to use all the resources that we have already in our brain in order to keep on adding more words or resources from different languages. So it is fascinating for me to see that we're finally making that shift. And this relates hand in hand with what we were talking about, mistakes. In the past, it was that, no, you should never do it. Versus now, it's the opposite. Is no, the more you try it, the better, because that's the same mindset that your child will have.
Exactly. And it's about communication, right? It's not about perfection. And I like to remind people that languages have all been made up by somebody, right? The point of languages, they are to communicate. So who's to say that, one pronunciation is better than the other? If the person that you're speaking to understands what you're saying, your goal has been met, right? There's no one accent. There's no one way of pronouncing a certain word that's better than the other. And as long as you're able to, share whatever your message is, then you've done your job. That's like success. You have succeeded in your ability to communicate.
Exactly. And there's much more about communication. You do not only communicate with your oral production of the language, there is a lot around that comes along with the nonverbal communication. It also there integrates some other multiliteracies that we do not only communicate with the use of words, but we also communicate through music, through art, through different ways, in which we can share the best of us to the world. So if you take that into consideration, then mistakes are really a great opportunity for everyone to keep on learning and having fun in this ride, rather than obstacles to stop teaching or inviting children to learn a new language.
Thank you so much for your time today, Silvia. And thanks to the listeners for spending time with us on French Footprints. No matter your experience level, introducing French at home can be simple, fun, and effective. Merci beaucoup et au revoir. This project has been made possible by the Government of Canada. Ce projet a été rendu possible grâce au gouvernement du Canada.